common exercise that people tend to hurt their back with are bent over rows. Now, when you think about bent over rows, you're actually bending at the waist. And so what ends up happening is you predispose yourself to extra pressure at the back. And especially if you're adding weight and then you add the speed factor into it, it's just a crazy dynamics. But if you understand how to position yourself and where to put the pressure, you're going to be better off having more success at limiting how much force actually generates at that back or even the knee. So look at the joints above and below. So let's dive right into it. Depending on your hand dominance pattern, you may have an offset position of your pelvis, meaning there's either an elevation or rotation that right there kind of kicks you out, meaning it almost pre-positions you for an injury or extra pain, tension in that area if you're not aware of it. Because if you don't have that hip mobility or just in general the pelvic alignment, tendency is you're not going to be able to go through that full motion like you want to position yourself like you need to offset that pressure. That being said, there's a way around it. So let's be strategic, let's be smart when it comes to the lift. So when I'm in this position, as far as I'm doing a bent over row, tendency is, depending on the exercise you're doing, you're either going to have dumbbells or barbell. I suggest doing it with dumbbells, especially when you're starting to retrain yourself to actually get in that position that you need to be to offset the force, because you can keep the weights a little bit close to your body. With the barbell, we tend to outstretch the arms a little bit more, also round out the rib cage, and that offsets the forces that we're actually pulling from an upper level to that low back. So if you do with the bent over row, what we call a staggered stance, you actually are able to have a better position when you're training, but also offsetting that possible either rotation, elevation, or off alignment of the pelvic position. So when I do my bent over row here, I want a staggered stance. I'm going to have one foot in front here. So right foot is in front of the left. So just enough, that's not, you don't feel like you're doing a lunge, but enough to where both feet are flat, weight is to the heel. So you always want to set your posture before you do the movement. So I set the posture, staggered stance, 1 foot in front. I also want to do a little bit of a hip tuck, because I'm basically pressing my hips back because I want more pressure in the heel than the toe. If you have more pressure in the toe, you're already moving forward. And again, when we bend over at the waist with that movement or the exercise, that's where the continued force goes right to the back. So you want flat feet, weight to the heel, tuck the hips right there, and I'm going to bend at the waist. So when I have that weight, I'm offsetting the pressure on the heel and the hip. So from a side angle, you'll see more of the hip tuck. Hip tuck, press the hips back. So it's more of a reverse hip hinge. So that right there with 1 foot out in front helps you offset a lot of the pressure that you're going to experience with the low back without continuing to hit there. If I do both feet together, I can still do the hip tuck and offset a lot of pressure there. But you're not considering the fact that you're probably already preset with that pelvic rotation or elevation. So no matter how good you are at doing the hip hinge, that's where the disconnect is at. That's why you want to do the staggered stance, because you're always going to have a better ability to put yourself in a better position for more success going through the movement, again, because you know where your pressure points are and you're not continually favoring left versus rights doing something different because of your hand dominant pattern. Now, I start with dumbbells. You can progress from there into with the barbell. Again, know that the more weight out in front, you're going to round out the shoulders more or open that rib cage. So that's a whole nother area of movement that you may not be realizing that you're losing that position. So it's all about position, and it's all about stability whenever you're going through your actual movement patterns controlled to offset that pressure so you're not constantly experiencing that low back pain.